Big Sills! Happy Friday to you. Welcome aboard the National Football Show. I appreciate everyone that checks us out each and every single week, and we have had a monster week. Thank you so much for coming aboard. I got to tell you, man, the Eagles are more interesting in the offseason than they are during the season. They're a polarizing team. The drama that we've seen this week with that franchise, to me, I mean, look, only the Jets, because of Aaron Rodgers, I think he's had more storylines. The whole Slay drama. The money given to Graham and Fletcher Cox. It's been a really great week of covering the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFL. A lot of storylines. We're going to talk about Howie's week here in a minute. I mean, it was like Howie after hours last night, right? He ends up landing Marcus Mariota. You know, at first I say this. He signs another bust. But I'll get to it here in a minute here. It's been a great week of free agency. And I mean for free agency for the players, because the money that's being tossed around right now is absolutely unbelievable. Money's insane. I mean, look, I still can't get over the TJ Edwards $7 million a year number. Kaiser White getting $5.5 million. I mean, the money and the market has clearly increased. And by the way, here's the other part of the drama this week for the NFL. Lamar Jackson has an opportunity to go anywhere he wants, and Baltimore is kind of allowing it. You know, they're kind of allowing it. You know, you look for these franchise guys, and you got one in your hands, and you're kind of letting him go out and test the market. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The longer this goes on, I think it favors Philly. Okay? I thought if it was going to happen that he was leaving the team, it had happened on Wednesday. They're kind of waiting to see how the dust settles a little bit here for him. And to me, Bates got a huge deal. I think he's kind of maybe a little bit shocked on where the market is right now for him. You know, how he's kind of playing it a little bit here with Gardner-Johnson on what Baltimore's doing with Lamar Jackson, right? So again, get it. National Football League is front and center. By the way, I want to say this about Darius Slay. Darius, I know you and your wife watch the program. Hey, look, dude, sometimes Big Sills gets a little overboard. No harm, no foul. I think you're a fabulous player. I think you've been a great Philadelphia Eagle. I just want you to know, man, hey, you've been a truly great football player to the Eagles, okay? And the whole drama going back and forth, that's one thing. But again, nothing personal, dude. Okay, nothing personal here. How he got his guy. By the way, what I said wasn't wrong. He did take a $3 million pay cut. Okay, he did take a $3 million pay cut. Okay? But and nothing in my video that I said I take back at all. Because he was not a top priority. But again, there's no reason to get personal here. Okay? So at the end of the day, everything I said played out. They gave him more upfront money, and he took a base pay cut. I think Tone and I figured it out around $3 million, $3.5 million. He took a pay cut. Now, that's on the Howie Roseman side of the ledger. Howie got his guy at the price that he thought was a little bit above market value. That's a win for Howie, and clearly it's a win for the Eagles. And by the way, I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. He was never going to be pushed to the curve because of ability. or production. He was being pushed to the curb because of salary. Okay? He was. Now, I want to get into Howie's week. Tell me what you think of Howie Roseman's week as general manager of the Eagles. What grade would you give Howie this week? What grade would you give him? Okay? What would you say? What grade? What and where would you put him? A plus, B, A, B minus? Pretty good grades. Okay? We're going to take a look at each and every single one of these. Hector says A. Fly says C. Brian says still incomplete. Interesting. Interesting take. A. All right, let's get into it here. Let's go with the players that they've lost first. Okay? Javon Hargrave, 11 sacks. Big loss. Big loss. Tone says I have to give him an A minus. The way he navigated the market and made risky bets and won, that's why he gets an A minus. By the way, I'm going to put Tone on at 4:30 Eastern today. I keep talking to him like he's Mr. Snerdley on the old Rush Limbaugh show. You know, Rush always referenced Mr. Snerdley. I keep referencing Tone. You should see Tone. I know some of you have. So I'm going to put him on at 4:30 Eastern time, and I'll get his thoughts. He's a major contributor to the program, and we appreciate him doing that. Brian says if CJ signs, it's an A+. I think that's a lot to be said if he's able to get his entire secondary re-signed outside of Epps. Hargrave is a big loss because of the 11 sacks. TJ Edwards kind of was a mainstay in the middle of that defense, right? Solidified the unit. The defense kind of gelled around him once they put him in the starting lineup. Kaiser White was a damn good pickup. By the way, that was a heck of a pickup. So much so that Gannon gave the guy who was his coordinator gave him $5.5 million. Had to think he had a good season, or he would never have offered him that. Marcus Epps, up-and-coming player. I think that's a loss, especially in a very weak safety position and safety unit. Miles Sanders, they don't value the position, but if you're going to run RPO and your quarterback runs a lot, you're taking 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns away from the offensive huddle. That's a lot. That's a lot of offense. You got to think that's around 15% of your offense that you're losing in your huddle. I think Sanders' production, not so much the player, but the production that he put up last year will be sorely missed. Am I saying he would do that again in consecutive years? I don't know that. Okay, that's the land of unknown with him because that was a career year for him. And do you understand that Carolina gave him $7 million? Philly was never giving him $7 million to play running back. That was never going to happen. Okay? That was never going to happen. Steve says Penny is going to roll dudes in this offense. We're going to take a look at that here in a minute. They lose Gardner Minshew, backup quarterback. One of your better substitute teachers, not a frontline starter, okay? Not a frontline starter, but a quality football player. So Hargrave, Edwards, White, Epps, Sanders, Minshew, with still potentially Isaac Seumalo and Gardner Johnson still out there, whether they come back or not. We don't know yet. As of what? 3:10? We don't know right now if those two guys are coming back. Seumalo has got a lot of suitors. CJ, I wonder if he's taking a look at the market right now. And maybe some of these offers are not exactly what he was expecting. You got to look at opportunity. You also have to look at the money. I mean, is it better just to come home if you're him? Okay? Now, here's the guys that they've added and kept. I'll give you my grade on what I think he's done this week here in a second. Fletcher Cox, $10 million, 1-year deal. That's a little pricey for me. Would I want the player back? Yes. I thought Fletcher played great from week 8 on. Once they add, whatever the week they added Joseph and Sue, I thought he became more productive with less reps. Now, again, it's not a complete roster yet, so I get it. They're going to have to add some depth to this defensive tackle position for him to be successful this year, because if you don't, and you don't get production from the backups like Milton Williams and maybe some other guys they bring in, he's not going to have a good year, folks. He was having a horrible year. Tennessee drilled him. And then after that, he couldn't play 68 snaps. Fletcher Cox cannot play 68 snaps. Now, in a controlled environment, 40-some snaps, he's still a productive guy. Limited snaps, give him the opportunity to have some depth behind him. I think he could be a pretty good player. $10 million, though, in my opinion, was a little too pricey. He couldn't have got $10 million in the open market. So the Eagles basically negotiated against themselves and pay a higher number for him. And by the way, just because you're boys and you like the guy has nothing to do with winning. That has zero to do with anything. They gave him the extra $3 million or $4 million because they like him. That's not good enough. This has got nothing to do whether you like the guy. Is the guy going to be productive if he's got to play, God forbid, 70 plays in a football game? I don't think he can. Brandon Graham, another limited guy. Like the Fletcher Cox sign is this. I think Fletcher's going to be really good. Probably in the first 6 weeks. And then as the year goes on, if they don't get depth, he'll get worn out. He will be non-productive by the end of the year if they don't address more depth on the team. Now, do I think they will? I do, especially in the draft. I do not believe, and by the way, like I said, his first half of the season was not very good. He got better when they got depth. Okay? The Brandon Graham deal. Brandon Graham is a centerpiece in Philadelphia, and the emotions of the organization had a lot to do with him coming back. Belichick would have never brought this guy back. He'd have been gone 2 years ago. Okay? He'd have been gone 2 years ago in Seattle. But Philly does a great job with their veteran guys that have had an impact, and they look at the totality of your career. And that means something to them. Guys like Kelsey had an all-pro year. That was a no-brainer to bring him back. Even with the money they paid at 14-4, that still, he's worth it. He had an all-pro season. Fletcher played well. Brandon played well in a limited role. Again, depth. I think Josh Sweat on the other side is a budding star. Okay? I think he's a budding star. The restructuring and the maneuvering to get Darius Slay is probably the gem so far this week. Now, he didn't help himself. Tone and I were talking about this yesterday. Why would a player who was under contract open his mouth and tell everyone he's leaving and then turn around and undermine the whole process, rolling it back? He didn't have to do that. Nobody would have known anything of the worst because he was under contract. He wasn't a free agent. He made himself sound like a casualty, Cap. He was a casualty of the cap. There was There was no reason to unfly or unzip the fly of Howie Roseman when they were told you were helping Drew Rosenhaus at all in any way. And through all that drama, they got it done. And again, I say this to you. Slay side with Rosenhaus, they saw the Stephon Gilmore money. And they knew if they went out, they'd get less than that. The Eagles were offering him an opportunity to still make some good money and not take that much of a haircut. Like we said, I think Tone and I said, it comes out to about $3.5 million that he's off his base salary. That's a win for Philly. By the way, it's not an attack on Slay if you make the player take more money and have a come-to-Jesus conversation that you're not an $18 million guy. It's a win for the Eagles. Yeah, you guys are looking at me like I'm not taking a shit on anybody. I had no insight that he was going to be released. Some go, well, the Inquirer said he was going to be released. Every news station on the planet said he was going to be cut. It wasn't me. Yet you make it sound like me. Crazy. Now Rashad Penny's added. Here was a bust player in Seattle. An out-and-out bust. I got the numbers to show you here. What clouds this perception, I see people talking about how this is a great sign. Now, for the money, yeah, no risk, really. 1.3. Okay. It's truly a nothing burger. But here's Rashad Penny's availability. He said today that, I guess when he met with the press, that he wanted to play a full 17 games, which he's never. So let's look at not just the numbers, his availability. Do you think this is productive? In the 82 available games that Rashad Penny could have played, he missed 40 of them. Do you understand that's 8 games a year? He's never played a complete season. He's only started 11, and he was a first-round pick. You think that's a great sign? I guess for the money? Okay. It's not whether the player is good. Even Seattle knew that. They couldn't count on him. That's why they went and got Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. Okay? That's why they went. And he's a cheap man's version of Miles Sanders. The Eagles wanted to get cheaper. They did. But you know how they looked at it? Watch this. Rashad Penny, Miles Sanders' ability and talent-wise, probably in the same room. But this guy's hurt more. You're going to count on a guy who averages 8 missed games a year. You're going to count on a guy. This is his 5-year record. Here is Rashad Penny from 2018 to 22. This is his and who he is. 82 available games, 42 he's played in, 11 starts, an average of 8 ball games he's missed. Okay, now, the one thing that I have to adjust on this, Sills, you're right if you're saying that Howie brought him into Philly to be a frontline starter. Maybe Howie's brought him in at 1.3 to be a role player. Okay. 1.3 role player with Gainwell and Scott. Yeah. If he understands his role. If he's a role player. You see, though, the media in Philly are making it sound like he's the replacement for Miles Sanders. Howie Roseman's actions didn't even dictate that. You know why? He gave Boston Scott $2 million. Boston Scott's going to be the lead back. He's the lead back. Penny got 1-3. So I have to adjust. Now, if Penny's going to be a role player, Sills, and you're not really counting on him to play a ton of games, say you get 10 games or 12 games out of the guy. Let's see, the most he's ever played is 14, and that was in his first year. Do you understand? Here's his resume. 14 games his first year, 10 the second, 3 the third, 10 the fourth, 5 last year. Dude, if you get 10 games out of this guy as a role player, the Eagles are probably thinking that's worth $1.3 million. Okay, I'll buy that. So, Sills, if he's a role player and a former first rounder, if that's his role, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. It is. But as a frontline guy to replace Miles Sanders, don't put that in the same room because he's not replacing Miles Sanders. He can't. Seattle replaced him last year because they couldn't count on him. And what did he give Seattle? He gave them 5 games. Come on, man. That's who Rashad Penny is. That's who he is. But yet people want to paint this portrait as something else. That's not what they're painting him as. Is not true. He's a role player now. And Howie is paying him such. Nothing to do with ability. Nobody's saying he's not good. But you miss 40 games in 5 years. At a clip of 8 games a year, I don't know. You have to be a role player. How about this? If Howie gets lucky and this guy plays 15 games, could he be a 1,000-yard back? Yeah. But he's never done it. Again, in the land of unknown. Now, Howie after dark last night. He gets Mariota. I think Mariota falls into the same category as Rashad Penny. Here's why. This guy's a bust. He was a bust in Tennessee. He was a bust in the Raiders. He's a bust in Atlanta. And you signed a bust. Now, he's being asked to do a different role here. He's being asked, in case something happens, dual threat. We need you. And you're going to have to prepare every week like you're the starter, which he has prepared as a starter. He was drafted to be a franchise quarterback. Mariota's smart enough to know, hey, I come to Philly, maybe I can reinvent myself here. I step in like Cooper Rush did. I step in like Brock Purdy. And we win some ball games, unlike what Gardner Minshew did. And if I can give you anything like a Nick Foles production, Nick Foles ended up getting a gigantic contract in Jacksonville because of what he did against the Patriots. Did he not? He made that $68 million deal or whatever it was in Jacksonville off of 3 games. Now, to be fair to Nick had a Pro Bowl season a few years earlier. So Nick has not sucked his entire career. Marcus kind of has floated on the not very good, halfway decent line. Okay? This is a great opportunity for Mariota if he knows his role. You see, I'm going to make a point to you guys on something. I never really ever thought that Gardner Minshew bought into his role as the backup quarterback in Philadelphia. Do you guys agree with me? I think he bitched and moaned behind the scenes. I think he was an okay teammate. But at the end of the day, he probably always thought he was a better player than Jalen Hurts. That was my impression of him. My impression of him was always, I think he always thought he could have started and did the same thing that Jalen did. Do I believe that? No. I kidded with you a year ago, but I do not believe that he could have. Now, I know he won in the previous year. He won a couple games. I know he won that Jets game. So, to me, I always thought that he never bought into the role. I think Mariota's smart enough to know, man, Tennessee, the Raiders, Atlanta, I'm running out of teams now. Okay? And I feel a little bit more confident with a guy who has prepared as a starter in Mariota than I do with Gardner Minshew. I would say this to you, though. Okay? If you're signing Marcus Mariota to be your franchise quarterback or your starter, it's a shitty sign. He's a bust. If you're asking him to carry the mail in bad weather, if something happens to Jalen Hurts, it's probably another great sign by Howie Roseman. Hey, do me a favor, Tone. What's the numbers on, I don't know if they've been released yet on Marcus Mariota, but I'd like to know what the numbers are because, again, Rashad Penny's numbers, if you go back and you look through everything, he was signed as a role player. Howie knows that. That's why it's the 1.3. And think about this. The most money they ever wanted to spend at the running back position was $3 million. How do we know that? Oh, they gave Boston Scott 2, and they gave Penny 1.3. They were never going to spend 7 on Miles Sanders. Ever. Ever were they ever going to spend that. $8 million total? I mean, they basically, look, I think they upgraded the backup position. I think they upgraded. Will they draft a quarterback in the draft? Probably. Ian Book, I don't want that guy as my third dude. I got to have a guy, again, that resembles an RPO dude. Okay? Would I bring Stetson Bennett from Georgia? Would that be a good number 3 guy? I don't know. You know? He's better than Ian Book. And he's older. I think this guy's like 25 years old. But at least he's won championships and he's played against some of the greatest talent in college football for the last 3 years at Georgia. I want a guy that's won games. If I'm going to have my backup quarterbacks, have to be people that have started and have won big games. Okay? Now, again, he's 25. For whatever reason, he's like really an old dude coming out of college. I don't know what is. I think there was a lot of transfers and this and that, junior college shit, stuff like that. But that 3-hole guy, kind of important. Ask San Francisco. Ask San Francisco how important the 3rd-hole guy was for the NFC Championship game. If you're going to have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, you better have dudes that can run that same style of system. That's why when Minshew got put in them games late in the season, he completely tanked. Hendon Hooker could be a free agent, an undrafted free agent. He could be. I think someone's going to take a gamble on him. By the way, I think someone takes a gamble on Hooker because of what Hurts has done and what Lamar Jackson has done, and also Kyler Murray. Okay, I seriously, The RPO guy is here to stay. Bruce Arians said that on our program a couple weeks ago. Okay? He said that a couple weeks ago. By the way, we still have a bunch of good free agents that are out there. I've got the list of the top line free agents. Also, I'm going to rank a premature rankings of every division in the NFL. I'll say this to you. Look at the Cowboys right now. And I'm going to get back to Howie, and I'll give you my grade here in a minute. Look at the Cowboys constantly losing players. You know why why the Cowboys are in the position they're in? Because they overpay for guys that are good players and making them seem that they're great players. Amari Cooper was a good player. Was he a great wideout? No, but you paid him like he was, 20. Look at Zeke Elliott. Zeke is a fine ball player. But look at he's not a $17 million guy. Think about all the big backs that you've paid over the last couple years. What did they bring to the table? Nothing. Vet goes, Mariota beat the Niners this year. That Niners football team was not the same team, Vet, once they acquired McCaffrey. They went on a 12-game win streak. What you saw early in the season to what they were later in the season was night and day. It wasn't the same football team. He dropped 28 on them. Bro, Marcus Mariota would not have beaten that football team when McCaffrey's on that team and the way Purdy started playing. Okay? They were not going to do that. The Niners were still jacking around with the Trey Lance experiment. And that team lost to the Bears, I think. The Bears. Then they went on a 12-game win streak. Not the same ball team. Not near the same ball team. Okay? 49ers are in a position right now of strength. You know, it's funny. When I said this a couple months ago, I'd rather have the 49ers situation with Purdy than with Hurts. Well, the reason is, again, money. Not because I think Brock Purdy's better. The 49ers are going to be able to keep their roster intact. They've got to get better production out of the quarterback, and they were getting it until the kid got hurt. All right. So my grade for Howie this week. They lose Hargrave. Marshall, thanks for coming aboard. Appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. 49ers can't stop the RPO. You had 230 yards or so against the 49er defense. They held you to your lowest production in offensive output of any team this year, Vet. Look it up. You had the least amount of offense versus the San Francisco 49ers without a quarterback this year. I think they stopped you pretty good. That defense was spectacular. Your offense wasn't great in that game against the 49ers. Who was great in that game? Your quarterback wasn't. I mean, really, you're making it sound like they put up 400 yards on San Francisco's defense. That wasn't true. I think the number you put up was 230 yards or 260 yards. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got that gift that Devontae Smith dropped the ball, or it would have been 230 yards of total offense. Total offense. The least amount of production of your football team, yards-wise, was against that Niner team in the NFC title game. So when you say they couldn't stop the RPO, that's not true. So, the grade for Howie this week. You know, I said at the beginning of the week that I didn't think this football team would make the postseason. I say this to you. I think they've limited a lot of the damage. I do. I think that would this be fair? Let's do this. Did you guys think there'd be more damage by today? Now, again, Gardner Johnson and Isaac Seumalo could also tip the scales here to where it was a pretty big exodus. But do you think that Howie has he's limited the pain that they're going to go and have to? Because look, you've lost so far 5 starters. You've lost 5 starters so far with the potential of losing 7. Off your 22, that's a pretty significant loss. Okay? And the additions that you brought back, you brought an old Fletcher Cox back and an old Brandon Graham. I don't know. We'll see. They're going to need a lot of help. Okay? And you spent $16 million on Cox and Graham. I don't know. I mean, okay. Once again, I did think there'd be more damage. So, what's his name goes like this. Now they are old. They are old. Graham's 36. They are old. Now they're old. Fletcher's 33. They are old. See, there's a guy here that doesn't want to he sees what he wants to hear again. That is standard fan. And again, I'm all right with that. They are old. There's not a player that you brought back in your front four that's under 32. What is Brandon, 35? Let's see what Brandon is. Maybe you know, Tone. How old is Brandon Graham? He's 34. He'll be 30. He just turned 34 April 3rd. 34. Not horribly old, but old. Okay? Oh, he'll be 35 April 3rd. I don't know. Is that young to you? Okay. Okay, wait. Tone, what'd I lie about? Tony, what did I lie about? He's 35 April 3rd. 11 sacks last year? Okay, like I said, you brought a 35-year-old defensive end back. Okay? Just saying. 18 sacks for a hometown discount and a brand new defense. How do you know Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox fit in that new system? You're going to take the chance that old guys are going to fit in a new system? All right. Look, I can't rip that. I don't know, nor do you. This is going to be a brand new defense. You're going to potentially, if Gardner Johnson doesn't come back, you're not going to have 6 starters on it. You could say whatever you want, man. It's not the same group of 2022. By far. You've lost a safety. Your inside backers, your best D tackle, and you brought back 2 old guys. And you're going to lean on a guy in Jordan Davis that has not shown any promise yet. All of that is the land of unknown. Jordan Davis could come out this year and play like Aaron Donald. He could. I don't know. Once again, 2022 was a certainty. You knew what you had. Plus, they were veterans. You got a brand new linebacking core. Potentially a brand new safety core. Your corners, it's great. Vet says they can't stop. They couldn't stop Mariota running the RPO. Dude, Marcus Mariota is a bust as a starting quarterback. End of story, dude. This is his 5th team. He's a bust as a starter. As a role player, okay, this is a new role for him. Tennessee, Raiders, Falcons, Eagles, 4 teams. He's a bust. Don't make it more than he's, again, Rashad Penny, bust. New roles. What is so hard to understand about this? And they're paying him as role players. Okay? Niners, whatever. Niners couldn't stop the RPO. Okay, yeah, all right. We have a difference of opinion. Okay? All I'm saying, once again, what do I think, Marcus, of Mariota? I think as a role player, backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts, I think it's a great sign. If people are looking at Marcus Mariota as a potential starter on their football team, you're in trouble. He's a stink. He's terrible. He's not going to get you to the playoffs with a 16-game or 17-game schedule because he's just not good enough. This guy was replaced by Ryan Tannehill. Come on, man. And again, I don't believe, again, this is a stupid conversation in a way because he's not being brought into Philly to do that. He's being brought into Philly to be a seatbelt. Okay? I'm not giving you any doom here. I'm telling you who these men are now. And when people paint something that's not true, sorry, I'm not going to paint that same portrait to you. Rashad Penny sucked in Seattle for the simple fact he was never there. That's why they drafted a guy. Now, if Howie, which he did, paid him as a role player, $1.3 million, it's a really good sign. Don't expect more than 8 games from him because he's never done that in 5 years. But you want me to sit here and tell you he's somebody else? That's not true. Somebody goes, it's hating when I tell you who he is. Or I tell you who Mariota is. What Howie Roseman has done to Rashad Penny and Marcus Mariota, he's had conversations and come to Jesus conversations. Here you are in your career, guys. Okay? You're not coming in here to be the frontline guy. They gave Boston Scott more money than Penny. I don't know what you're thinking here. That Penny's a better player. Well, why didn't he give Penny the $2 million? Instead of Boston Scott's your frontline guy. He's your starter. Okay, he's your starter. Why? Here's the rule in the NFL. When you start paying athletes, you got to play them and coach them. You pay and you play the guys you pay the most money for. That's reality. That's why the Cowboys are in the position they're in. Because they're playing the wrong guys. Because they're paying the wrong guys. Tony Pollard was the guy for the last 3 years, but they were paying Zeke. The Cowboys had to have a come-to-Jesus conversation. We can't keep paying this guy when Pollard's the bell cow. They paid the wrong guy. What you're trying to do is not be that team, and the Eagles have been good at that, not being that team. Boston Scott makes the most money for a reason. This is what it is. Here, if I'm going to rank Howie's deal so far this week, I'm going to say this to you. Bradbury's 1. Slay's 2. Mariota's 3. Fletcher Cox is 4. Graham is 5. And Penny is 6. Okay? How much do I think Fletcher has left? I think he's a good player. He used to be exceptional. Do I think he's better than Jordan Davis? Oh, I do. Oh, I do. And that's so do the Eagles. That's why they gave him $10 million. Don't you think if Jordan Davis had shown more promise, do you really think they'd bring Fletcher Cox back at $10 million? You can't think that. Fletcher's still a better player than the 13th pick who's 22 years old. I mean, they're not bringing Fletcher Cox back at $10 million. $10 million. I think Brandon in the right role can continue doing what he does. You know, it's always hard to talk about a guy like Brandon Graham because he's such a solid dude in the community. This is football stuff. Don't take it personal. This is football talk here. Nothing personal. It's got nothing to do with whether he's a good dude or not, because that conversation doesn't matter here. Will he be productive? Is the only thing that matters right now. I think he can if they do him solid by bringing more people in. James Bradbury, will he be able to duplicate what he did a year ago in a new defense? Yet to be determined. Good player, though. Slay's been a really good ball player in Philadelphia. His 3 years since he came over from that cesspool of an organization, the Lions, who I think have improved a bunch. He's in the conversation with Lito Shepherd and Asante Samuel as one of the better cornerbacks that the organization has had over the last 15 years. He's been a fabulous ball player. Took a haircut, saw what the market was, came back, and he didn't have to take that much of a buzz. Like Tone and I say, he took about a $3 million haircut. Got more money up front, more power to him, and the Eagles saved some money. I would say that Howie's week has been a B+. I say Howie's been a B+. Dan has no Darius Slay knee pads on. Absolutely. Everything I said turned out to be true from that video. He was going to take a pay cut. They were going to release him. He came back with his agent. I don't know what you're talking about. Everything that I said happened. You call that knee pads? I call that reality talk because that's the way it played out. Because Darius thought that he was going to go on social media and become a victim and play the casualty of the cap, and he didn't need to. He needed to, just like Tone said, be quiet. Would have helped him out a hell of a lot more, in my opinion. Slay was not garbage last year. That's not true. I did not think he played his best football the last month of the season, though. Not at all. I say how he had a B+. I thought this was going to be more of a disaster. Okay? No, it's not a C- because Fletcher Cox, with help, is still better than Jordan Davis. He's still better than Jordan. Watch this. Your two starting defensive tackles, the old guy's better still. The young guy hasn't showed shit yet. That's a fact. He has not shown the 13th. Watch this. Jordan Davis right now, if I were to draft the way he looked a year ago, is a 4th rounder. He ain't the 13th pick. He gave you 4th round. As of right now, you've overdrafted Jordan Davis. You overdrafted him. You better turn into more of a pass rusher and not just a Sam Adams. That's a round 4 grade for Jordan Davis a year ago. Nakobe Dean, 6th, 7th round. Guys keep telling me Kaiser White sucks. Really? So the steal of the draft couldn't beat him out. All right. A lot of pressure on those two. They're going to be held to a high standard here. You can guarantee you that. Now, watch this. Howie's at a B+ right now. If Gardner Johnson signed, we're floating in the A-. And what I said about the Eagles not making the playoffs, I don't know. Then we start creeping back in there going, I know. They're right there again a little bit. Okay? I personally, on Monday, told you in my video and in my show, we could get a mulligan on Friday. If Gardner Johnson leaves, I'm still going to be in that position because I want to see the offense with the new coaching staff. This is a brand new coaching staff, too. This is a brand new coaching staff. Different philosophies, different in-game decisions, different situational play calling. Every coordinator is different. Coordinators are like leaves on a tree. Every leaf is different. Same with coordinators. Every coordinator has a nuance that they have in a game that they do, and it's their staple. It's how some guys get head coaching jobs. Brian says the offense will keep them in every game. Dismissing them from the playoffs. Well, sorry, Brian. Last March 10th, I told you were going to the Super Bowl. So I guess you didn't like that. Vet says, they paid Kaiser White. You stated if they paid players, they gave to play. This is mine. Nakobe Dean didn't play. I don't know what that means. Please kind of put it together for me a little better, and I'll reread it for you. So again, B+ as of Friday here. Now, Howie After Dark. Last night, if Mariota's brought into that role and he knows it, it's a good sign. Mariota is he's a bust as a starter in this league. He's a bust. But that's not what he's brought in for. It's not why he's brought in. Okay? I would also entertain Sileo leaves out all the young players we have. So what young players? What young players on defense? Who? What young players? What young players? Nakobe Dean? Okay. I don't know who he is. He's not good. He's on your football team. You don't know he's good. I don't know he's good. He's in the land of unknown. Same as Jordan Davis. Both of those players underperformed and were overdrafted a year ago. Could that improve this year? Here, you want to hear cheerleading? Sure. Hoping. Rooting. Josh Sweat, I say it every single day on this program, how much I love the improvement of that kid. Once again, you take 5% of what I say and you don't hear it. There's not a day I don't say that Josh Sweat proved to me at the beginning of last year. By the end of last year, I didn't think he was a 3-down D lineman. He is now. What more do you want? Rainbows and butterflies? Wrong show. Wrong show. I'm not counting Davis and Dean. They've showed me nothing. How do you know they're good players when they've had a full season? They were overdrafted. As of March 17th, those two players are overdrafted. And to sit here and go, I think they're going to have breakout years. Get a better shot at playing roulette. How do you know they suck? Because last year they sucked. You go on Davis, but the run game before Davis got injured. So he gave you three or four games in a 17-game season. And when he got into the Super Bowl, he didn't play. He was healthy, and he got drilled. My bad, spell check. Okay, Vet, all good. Thank you very much, too, Vet, for that. I appreciate it. They paid Kaiser White last year, so you said they have to play their players they pay, and that is why Nicole. Hey, Tone, can you put that up there, please, for me? My bad, spell check. They paid Kaiser White last year, so you said they have to play their players they pay. It's true, and that is why N'Kobe didn't get to play because they were paying Kaiser. Fair enough to bring that back on me, but you put the equity of a third-round draft choice in him too. And if you knew you signed him to a one-year contract, weren't you hoping by the end of the year, Vet, that he would beat the kid out? So what you have, and as of right now, that's a downgrade for the Eagles. It's not an upgrade. Putting Dean in over White is not an upgrade. How do you know that? I know that the guy who just made $5.5 million and is going where the coordinator that just was in Philadelphia gave him that money, my opinion, until proven otherwise, N'Kobe Dean's a downgrade. And if you say this, it's an upgrade, it's wishful thinking. And hopefully he does. But today, that's not true. Jordan Davis taking over for, hey, watch this. How many people think Jordan Davis taking over for Javon Hargrave is an upgrade? Okay? What happened to Hurts? Will have surgery, or Reddick can't get off the bus. Glad you can use Google, McNabb. How many people think that Davis is an upgrade over Javon Hargrave? How many people think that's an upgrade? Guy who just signed for $20 million. How many people think he's an upgrade? Vet thinks it's an upgrade. You think Jordan Davis, who's never had more than 5 sacks in a season in his entire football career, is going to produce 11 sacks? Whew. Again, monster wishful thinking. Charlie says lateral? Not in your life. That's not a lateral move. He's not a pass rusher. He's never been. Where are you getting this that he's as good as Javon Hargrave? Look at his numbers at Georgia. Look at his rookie numbers this year. Okay? Davis is not a pass rush defensive tackle. The comparisons aren't fair. He's taking the position of him. What do you so wait a minute. He's taking his position. What are you talking about? So you drafted the 13th pick in the National Football League's draft, and you're okay with a guy who can't rush the passer at 13. Wow. Holy shit. That's crazy. The 13th pick, that guy just said, it's not fair to compare him to a guy who had 11 sacks. Then why'd you take him 13th? Why didn't you go get the kid Lloyd from Utah, like I said to? Or the corner from Washington, like I said? They both started. They started on a Super Bowl and a playoff team. Don't tell me they couldn't start anywhere. The rookie McCullough starts in Kansas City, and the kid Lloyd starts for Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. You're okay with that. So again, that's an upgrade? So is Blankenship now an upgrade over Gardner Johnson? Is he? By the way, who's taking TJ Edwards' spot? Who's taking TJ Edwards' spot in your defense? Do you even have the guy on the team yet? That they are playing Hargrave and Cox, and Jordan didn't get to play. He's developing. I thought when you drafted first-round draft choices, this ain't a quarterback, dude. You need to get your ass out there, wind him up, and let him go run into walls. He's a D tackle. He's not a quarterback. Developing? Get his ass out there and play. Are you kidding me? At 13? Give me a break, man. Draft a guy in the first round. He's expected to play. Tell you what, Devontae Smith broke rookie records in Philadelphia, wide receiver, in his rookie season. Second year, he had 95 catches. That's developing. That's developing. Let's look at the best free agents that are out there. I'm going to do that. By the way, we're going to talk to our boy Tone at 4:30 Eastern. I want to get his thoughts. He got some great stuff. I see him on with John McMullen all the time too, so I want to bring him on. He's worked really hard these last couple weeks for us. So they're not paying Cox or Hargrave. Your words, not mine. I asked you if you thought it was an upgrade. Jordan Davis over Javon Hargrave. I asked you if it was an upgrade. That's all I asked you. Was it an upgrade? You can't even answer that. All right. Hour number 2. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on